Hello everyone. Today we're going to study a poem for Prep 1 students titled Great, Wide, Beautiful, Wonderful World, written by William Pretty Rance. On looking at the title of this poem, we can note that there are 4 adjectives describing the world. These adjectives are great, wide, beautiful, and wonderful. So the question here is, what does this tell us about the state of the poet? And by the state of the poet I mean his emotions. We can simply say that the poet had that combination of feelings, that feeling of respect and admiration for this world, and that feeling of fear. So at the same time as he watches this world in respect and admiration, he is also in a state of shock of how big and enormous this world is, and how small man is compared to this vast great world. But at the end, the poet will come to realize that we as human beings have a quality that the world doesn't have. We're going to learn about that while studying this poem. This poem consists of 2 stanzas. What is a stanza? A stanza is a group of lines. Here in this first stanza we have 4 lines. Let's read it. Great, wide, beautiful, wonderful world, with the wonderful water round you curled, and the wonderful grass on your breast. World, you're beautifully dressed. Again. Great, wide, beautiful, wonderful world, with the wonderful water round you curled, and the wonderful grass on your breast. World, you're beautifully dressed. Now, let's talk about the meaning of some of these words. Here we have the word great, which means very large, something much bigger than average in size. Here we have the word wide, which means having a large distance from one side to the other. We have the word curled, which means covered with or wrapped with. We have the word pressed, which means the chest of a human being. So now let's move to the paraphrase part. To paraphrase is to explain a piece of writing like this poem using your own words. So here the poet likens the world to a woman whose dress is formed by the oceans and seas along with the grass. We can note that the poet shows his deep respect and admiration for this world, mixed with fear, as we said before. Now let's move to the figures of speech. In the first line we have alliteration. What do we mean by alliteration? It's the repetition of the same consonant sound at the beginning of 2 or more words. We have wide, wonderful world. The repetition of the W sound. W, W, W. In the second line we have alliteration. With wonderful water. We have equation between beautiful and wonderful. What's equation? It's the word and it's equal. So both of these words, 2 words, have the same meaning, beautiful and wonderful. We have personification in round you curled. What is personification? It's giving human attributes to inanimate object. So talking about an object as if we're talking about a human being. So around you curled, you're pressed. So these are called personification. You're pressed. Only a human being has a breast, not the world. So personification. In the last line we have personification. World. He is addressing the world as if he is talking to a human being. You're beautifully dressed. Here he likens the world to a woman who is beautifully dressed. Let's talk about the rhyme scheme. The first two words end with the same last sound, so we give them the letter A. World, curled. The last two lines end with the same last sound. Pressed, dressed, so we give them the letter B. Let's read the vocabulary. Great, large and big. Wide, big and extensive. Curled, covered with. Pressed, it's a human being's chest. Paraphrasing. The poet is talking about the beautiful world with its beautiful seas and oceans. He says that the world is beautifully dressed. Figures of speech. Alliteration. Wide, wonderful world with wonderful water. Personification. You're pressed. Word. You're beautifully dressed. Now let's move to the second stanza. Okay. So let's read it. Ah, you're so great and I'm so small. I tremble to think of you, world at all. And yet, when I said my prayers today, a whisper inside me seemed to say, you're more than earth, though you're such a dot. You can love and think, and the earth cannot. Again. Ah, you are so great and I am so small. I tremble to think of you, world at all. And yet, when I said my prayers today, a whisper inside me seemed to say, you're more than earth, though you are such a dot. You can love and think, and the earth cannot. Let's talk about the meaning of some of these words. We have ah at the beginning. This is an exclamation word showing surprise. So, as we said before, he is in a state of shock, an amazement. We have the word tremble, means to shake in fear. So when you are afraid of something, you shake. We have the word prayer. It's the act of asking God for help. Now let's paraphrase this stanza. Here in this stanza, the poet is trying to tell us that every time that thought of the world being enormous and him as a man being so small comes to his mind, he shakes in fear. But suddenly, while praying for God, a thought comes to his mind and tells him that despite the fact that you are nothing compared to this world, yet we as human beings have a quality that the world doesn't have. It's the quality of being able to love and think. So we as human beings shouldn't think less of ourselves. So his subconscious mind told him that, wait a second, despite the fact that this world is so great and you are nothing compared to this world, yet you have a quality that this world doesn't have. It's the quality of being able to think and love. So don't think less of yourself. Let's move to the figures of speech. We have the repetition of so great, so small. This is a repetition to assure the meaning. We have a contrast between great and small, so it's the word and its opposite. We also have a contrast between more than earth, such a dot. This is contrast. A whisper inside seemed to say, a whisper seemed to say, personification. Think of you, personification. So, think of you, this is personification. We have alliteration, seemed, say. the repetition of the same consonant sound at the beginning of these two words. You're so great. So addressing the word as if we're addressing a man. So this is personification. Rhyme scheme. So the first two lines end with the same last sound, small, all. So we give them the letter C. The second two lines end with the same last sound, they, say. We give them the letter D. The last two lines end with the same last sound, dot and not. We give them the letter E. So the rhyme scheme of the whole poem would be like this: A, B, B, C, C, D, D. Let's read the vocabulary. Tremble, to shake with excitement. Whisper, it's a soft voice. Dot, a speck or point. Paraphrasing, the poet says that he is an unimportant dot in such a great world. At the end, the poet realized that he is more important than the whole world, as he can think and the world cannot. Figures of speech, we have a contrast, great, small, personification, a whisper, to say, alliteration, seemed, and say. The rhyme scheme, A, B, B, C, C, D, D, E, E. That's it for today. Thank you. I hope you understand this lesson. Goodbye.